Okay, and welcome along once again to the Star Sports blog. And as you can see, we're three-handed this occasion. There's no Lofty, thank God. It's Chester Cup time, the Rudy Mile, and I'm joined by Trevor Harris, our horse racing anti-post judge, and David Hadgell, our flat racing correspondent. And what I think the best thing to do is we'll just go through it in betting order. And Hot Pot favourite is Overtone, 5-1, fresh off a second in the Champion Hurdle, looking for a repeat victory in the race. Trevor?
Well, it's all about price, isn't it? At 5-1, it's plenty short enough. But it's also a legend. He won this race last year. He won Northumberland Plate. He's won the Galway Hurdle. He's won the Scottish Champion Hurdle, and he was second in this year's Champion Hurdle. Runs it off 106. Got a pretty good draw, and probably go from the front. 5-1. It's hard to see out of frame, really. It's very tough. You could argue it's still one handicapped on its hurdles form. And one would have to lay, but not one we're looking to get. And, well, he's a legend, so we'll see how he gets on.
Well, I think you summed it up there, Trevor. You know, this is the sort of horse everyone would love to own, isn't it? A durable, all-year-round horse.
Reminds me of Simon Cecil, really.
For me, a horse that can go hurdling and win these big handicaps is the exact sort of horse I'd love to own. David, at 5-1?
Similar to Trevor, really. I think he's short enough at 5-1. You know, he won this after a hard enough jumps campaign last year. I think he could probably do it again, but I think there's probably a bit of value further down the field with another year on his back.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed. He's an 8-year-old, and they've not got the best record in this race. 8-year-olds. He's had another tough campaign, and for me, I do think these races will have to catch up at some point. And like you said, plenty of value further down the card. And we'll move down there right away. And Mr. Chester himself, Mr. Marouane Koukash, has got 4 runners in this race, just the 4 for Marouane, which is unusual. I'll be there all week, and I'm sure him and his entourage will be there. The best of his runners, or the shortest in the betting, is this Never Can Tell, Jamie Osborne's 6-1, progressive type. Trevor, anything for you?
Defied belief watching Cesarewitch last year. Had a really bad draw, all the way around the outside of the touring, and still won really well. Clearly progressive, unexposed as a stayer, £11 higher. The Tory keeps the ride, 6-1 pretty short with a rain about, but if you watch the Cesarewitch again, you can't help but be impressed. And one would have to take on again, but respect its claims.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Koukash is desperate to win every single Chester race. You know,
sure.
This will be hot on his list. And would you say it's the best of his 4, David?
Definitely. I was quite sweet on his chances until the overnight rain on Monday night, which worries me a bit. I mean, he's won round the track. He's won it 2 miles around the track. His Cesarewitch win was very impressive, as Trevor alluded to.
It's officially soft now at Chester. I read this morning. So,
Dettori in the saddle again. Drawn in 6, he's got a great chance, but the rain puts me off slightly. I mean, I probably would have been interested in backing him at 6, but I'm not so sure now the rain.
Well, you say that, David, drawn 6, you know, it's Chester, it's the one thing on everyone's mind, the draw. Let's get that out of the way now and discuss the draw. Is it imperative to be drawn low in the Chester Cup? Obviously over 5 furlongs, we know it is, but over this 2-mile trip, Trevor, how important is the draw to you?
Pretty important, but it's not essential. Basically, when it's such a draw bias, they go very hard from the low numbers, and high numbers have got a chance, so they can slot in early on from fast pace and give themselves a chance, or they can use some energy early on and get across. It's not impossible to defy a high draw, they go very quick, but it's all about racing position, and obviously a low draw enables you to get your position easier without exerting that much energy. So
would you say it is a massive advantage to be a hold-up horse if you're drawn high?
I personally think I'd rather be drawn either dead against the rail or dead out wide. If you look at the last few runnings of the race, there's always been one kind of which is snuck in the frame or even won it from like 16, 17, 18. You know, I think the worst place to be is 8, 9, 10, like around the middle of the pack really. And I kind of think Chester's gone, not so much in the Chester Cup, but the other Chester races, the inside draws are kind of now over bet. And it's like, even if a horse hasn't got the form, if it's drawn in 1, 2 or 3, it's put in single figures regardless. I tend to think if you bet Chester all throughout the year, if you started, you know, looking at the outside draws a bit, you know, the top half of the draw, I think there's actually a bit of value there, because horses do win from those.
So people do tend to overlook these horses just because they're drawn in the car.
I think in recent years particularly, the market's just overreacted to the draw, and I think you now better looking, you know, at the outside stores for you.
So our conclusion is here with Star Sports, although the draw is imperative, for these short sprints, the 5-6 furlong races, over this longer distance, we're not overly concerned about it.
I think as a punter you'll get more than compensated without drawing the price.
Right, okay.
Well, I just don't think you want to be drawn in the middle, because I just think you get squashed in, and I think you'd much rather be drawn on the outer and drop in than be right in the middle and in the melee, as it were.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the next in the betting. Drawn 3, this Shubat for Roger Varian, another young horse, right down the bottom of the weight. So I notice horses that have got less than 8 stone 9 have got a terrible record in this race. A weird thing to say, oh, it's not got enough weight on its back, but is it good enough, Trevor?
I think it's short, very short for what it's achieved. It is 5 actually, very lightly race 5-year-old, and well, great as you expect from this yard. Impressive at Musselburgh, but really wasn't a great race, and the form hasn't particularly worked out. I think it's one to take on. I think they're better on connections rather than its actual form, and this is the one of the short ones I'd like to be against.
You know, I tend to agree. These Jarvis horses, as we used to call them, or now the Varian horses, always seem to be short at these big handicaps. Always sneaking in off those bottom weights, but this is definitely one I'd want to be against. I hope we'll be laying this on Saturday. David, for you?
I totally agree with Trevor on this one. These Varian unexposed, lightly raced horses are always overbet, and they're the kind of horses I love taking on. To have 5 runs, there's a possibility that the bounce factor will kick in from its Musselburgh race as well. It won very easily at Musselburgh. It's running again in just under a month. Possibility of bounce, I wouldn't back it at 6 to 1. I'd rather back anything else in the field than him, I think.
Right, okay, moving on, and I'm not going to lie, this is my fancy for the race. Drawn out in 19, unbelievably. Johnson first string, Gulf of Naples, 7 to 1, sort of third joint fourth favourite. Won impressively last time at Ripon. For me, it's won twice over 2 miles. That's something I love to see going into the Chester Cup. Trevor or David, can you put me off?
I think the price is plenty short enough. I think it's got a big task on, but it's a young progressive stayer from this yard, and you pose them at your peril really. I don't think this will be dropped in. I think this has got to do some running early on to get across, and I think that's what Francis Norton would do. He'd kick it out and he would track overturn. If he managed to do that, it's got a good chance, but nothing in the price for me.
I mean, any Chester statisticians, the first thing you talk about is the draw price, the second thing you talk about is Mr. Barry Hills, and third, unbelievably, is Franny Norton. If you look at his record around Chester, it's phenomenally good, and he will know how to get across early, and I'd have every faith in him at Chester more than any other track, and for me, that's the one I'm going to be on. David, put me off?
I couldn't put you off. I think 7's about the right price, to be honest. He won very well at Ripon last time out, right? Pretty weak field to beat, but he's got a great chance. The draw shouldn't inconvenience him as long as you say, Norton can track across. The only thing I will say is he's never run a very good time, Gulf of Naples. All the races he's running have all been fairly slow first, and hasn't proved he can do it on the clock for me. That put me off a tad with him. But I think he's about the right price. I'd rather be on him than Shubat, who's a point shorter anyway.
Right, okay, I could talk about that horse all day. I'm not going to bore you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll move swiftly on. Back onto the main man, Mr. Malran Kukash, another one of his runners, Mount Athos. A 10 to 1 shot with us here at Star Sports. Drawn 12, David. You were saying you don't like these horses drawn in the middle. Luca Kamani not got the greatest record at Chester. Thoughts?
Yeah, it's a bit of a worry. He's drawn right in the middle. First run for Kumani as well. Marwan Kukash has gone and bought him. He ran some decent races last year. Came 4th in this race last year. Ground's another issue for him as well. Not too sure how he goes on it. But he's consistent. He's never put in really bad results. He's only beaten just over 4 lengths in the E-Ball last year.
Yeah, he runs in a lot of these top
he's staying handicaps. He's probably got one in him eventually. Not sure if it's this one. I reckon he's probably one in the summer on better ground. I think 10 to 1 on his first start for Kimani. It's not for me anyway.
Trevor, agreed?
I totally agree. Plenty short enough. Beautifully bred horse, did well John Hills. David Watson had him last year, but he got bad draw after bad draw after bad draw. He will win a big handicap for Kamani this year. That I'm quite confident of. He'll be aimed at the E-Ball, races like that. But Mr. Kamani's also so far this year haven't really sparkled, and I agree with David. First time up for him. Yeah,
he's one who could develop into a Melbourne Cup candidate.
I think he's plenty class enough to win a big race.
I mean, are you two going to stop agreeing at any point this afternoon? Because Now I can move to one side and you can sit
Well, we're
half-handed
definitely
if
going
you
to,
want.
going to agree on the next one as
Yeah.
well.
Right, okay.
Basically.
So these guys can agree a little bit more. I'm going to move on to the horse that caused all that furore with the price-wise selection and all those front pages in the Racing Post last year, the Tominator. The Northumberland Plate winner, 40 to 1 shot that day, surely not 40 to 1 this time. 10 to 1 Trevor, I know this is on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, basically this is the rock solid one for me and would be my selection. Very impressive Northumberland Plate last year. Tom Segal still dining out on that. That was of 91. He's beat the Chester afterwards, and a very good race of 97. And he's been competitive in all his other races off about 100. Still on 100. He's shown he can be competitive with that mark. Stall two even. Jockey bit inexperienced, a little bit of a worry, but
Yeah, I was going to say not someone I know that
No,
well,
he's-
Paul Pickard. Who rode him when he won the Northumberland Plate? Do you know?
I think it was
Yeah,
very
it
good.
was, no, it was.
Was it Paul Pickard? Well, yeah, he's obviously.
Well, there we go.
Yeah,
He knows the horse, so that's something not to worry about at
I think the
all.
horse is rock solid, trained for the race, and double figures price would be the call.
Right, so Trevor, Tominator for you, David.
Yeah, I like Tominator as well, but one I'll put up at a price is Ile de Ré, which is a lovely island just off the French coast, by the way. I'd recommend it.
The Donald McCain second string.
Indeed. He's had a bit of a hard jumps campaign and was tailed off at Sandown last time out, but he's won on soft ground, he's won over 2 miles, he's won round the track, and at 25 to 1 he'd be the one I'd be interested in backing. I think he's a solid each way, but I think he'd be shorter than 25 today with the rain that we've had.
Plenty to forecast.
Yeah, and there could be more tonight. Yeah, 25 to 1 Ile de Ré would my idea of the winner.
Okay, so for me here at Star Sports, I'd want to be against this Overton. It's had a long campaign. I like Golf of Naples. I think that's a great shout at 7 to 1. Trevor, Tominator fan, 10 to 1 each way. And David, for you, 25 to 1 Ile de Ré.
Yeah, Ile de Ré for me.
Well, you know, as I say every time, anything you want, anything you need, not just at Chester, but any other sporting event over the weekend or during the week, here at Star Sports we'll take care of you. Call us on 08000 521 321, or why not go on and see these video blogs and the other video blogs we've done on the website, which is www.starsportsbet.co.uk. But with whatever you're backing, we wish you the best of luck and we hope to hear from you in the next 24 hours.